Sammy Altman. Aren't you the face of innovation right now? All right, what's he up to? OpenAI is teaming up with Cisco, Oracle, and Nvidia, believe it or not, to build a UAE data center. Now, this isn't just any data center, it has an AI supercluster. We're going to get into the specs in a little bit, but this is going to change so much about how we interact with AI, about how we interact with our geopolitical neighbors, even across the ocean. So let's get right into it. And this, believe it or not, affects you too. Because the kind of work that's going to come out of the development of this AI supercluster is also going to affect the kind of jobs you're going to be getting. Spoiler alert, if you're somebody that's interested in cloud engineering, this would be a really good time to lock in. All right, let's get into the deets. Um, Overview of the project. OpenAI is partnering with a lot of different companies, and it kind of makes sense. You need expertise from a lot of different fields, a lot of different technologies, right? So you need some financiers, you need some companies that have expertise in storage solutions, such as Oracle. Obviously, if you're going to build an AI supercluster, you're going to need Nvidia to weigh in. Nvidia is the market leader when it comes to GPUs, and GPUs are the bedrock of developing AI infrastructure. Cisco, it's a name you don't really hear of too often in the world of tech, but Cisco is the go-to company when it comes to networking solutions. And as we're going to get into this overview that I've very cleverly generated using Perplexity, we're going to realize that networking is a huge part, is axial, it's absolutely crucial to making this project work because they are going to supply the compute and storage capabilities to not just the Middle East, but to a 2,000-mile radius of the Middle East. This is a truly international collaboration. We're super excited. Let's see what other players are involved. So Oracle, Nvidia, Cisco, obviously. SoftBank, I'm sure, is one of the financiers. And Emirati AI firm G42, remember the name, they're going to be in the limelight for quite a bit, is going to be working with OpenAI for this Stargate project. Obviously, first large-scale international expansion and part of a broader US-UAE collaboration. AI infrastructure is the name of the game. If you're slow to the punch, you're going to be left behind. All right, let's look at some specs, right? The Stargate UAE campus will span 10 square miles in Abu Dhabi. Now, that's kind of easy to come by because so much of the Middle East is a lot of barren desert space, although that does make me wonder, because it's sort of in the middle of the desert, I am sure that getting water for cooling these very computationally intensive clusters are going to be a huge part of the expense because you're literally building this out in the middle of the desert where temperatures already run super hot, where water and water resources are super scarce, and you're just dedicating a 10 square mile um, campus to setting up a data center. Very bold, but hey, I'm sure water is going to be a big part of the question. Maybe this is how we get into the water crisis. Who knows? Okay, it's planned to have a total power capacity of 5 gigawatts, making it one of the largest AI infrastructure projects globally. Central to this development is a 1 gigawatt AI computing cluster. So it's going to be a 5 gigawatt project in its entirety, but 1 gigawatt of it is going to be dedicated to just an AI computing cluster. And 200 megawatts, so one-fifth of that, one-fifth of the whole, and one-fifth of that is going to be operational by 2026. So that's in a year. So they better hook up their irrigation systems, whatever they need to do to just haul all of that, all these tons of water to the site of these data centers. All right, so what does the partnership structure look like? G42, which is the Emirati AI company, is going to build a facility, and OpenAI and Oracle will oversee its operations. So, this is actually pretty great because Oracle and OpenAI, they definitely have the tech know-how and the expertise, like OpenAI with its AI understanding, deep AI expertise, and Oracle has been building relational databases since forever. So the data and the AI part, the expertise is going to be offered by these overseers. And Emirati AI, dude, this company's going to come out on top. They're going to learn so much from these two companies. Nvidia will supply advanced AI chips and computing hardware. Obviously, you're not going to get them from any of the other competitors. You want the best of the best. AMD or Huawei is not going to cut it. Nvidia is who is going to supply all these chips. Cisco and SoftBank will provide networking and connectivity solutions. There we go. Cisco is the name of the game if you're trying to connect wires and you're trying to do it efficiently. The US government has approved the partnership. Okay, good. We have a nod from Trump. Investment and reciprocity. Okay, so are both countries benefiting from this equally? Let's take a look. The initiative is a part of a multi-billion-dollar AI infrastructure. No shit, it's going to be multi-billion dollars worth of an investment. Trump administration greenlit it. That's great. Initial commitments of 100 billion and a further 500 billion pledged over the next 4 years. So it seems like over Trump's administration, we're going to be spending about $600 billion in setting this project up. But there's more, right? Because for every dollar that the UAE is going to be investing in Stargate UAE, because they're building out this data center, remember, in the middle of the desert in Abu Dhabi and related projects, an equivalent amount will be invested in US in AI infrastructure, including OpenAI data centers in the United States. So I'm sure UAE had to bring a lot of, they had to be super convincing when they were trying to win this project over. This is almost as crazy as building out the series of football stadiums that we needed to build out for the World Cup that happened in Qatar, right? I'm sure UAE was like, hey, I know this is the middle of the desert. We don't have water, but if you please, please, please make us one of the most relevant countries in the AI space by building this massive data center, against all geographical odds, we are going to match you dollar for dollar for every thing that we invest in building this. We're going to help build infrastructure in the US. So the US is actually going to be winning quite a bit in this deal. They are going to be getting a lot of money and investment to build out their own AI infrastructure in the US. And in return, really, the UAE, I don't think, is in need of money. Their citizens are doing just fine. But what they're getting in exchange is the expertise from Cisco, from Oracle, from OpenAI. Cool. Strategic and global implications, AI sovereignty and access. So UAE, Stargate UAE is the first project under OpenAI for countries, a new initiative to help governments. Okay, so governments are going to get access to AI capabilities, which honestly I feel a little iffy about because, like the government has not historically been known to use AI the most responsibly or in the most fair way, surveillance tech and whatnot. The UAE will become the first country to enable nationwide access to ChatGPT, providing ChatGPT Plus subscriptions to its entire population. Oh my goodness, that is like a $20 subscription. And they did it before the US got to healthcare access for everybody. Okay, so this is what I mean. The UAE is not in need of money. They just need to learn the expertise of how to become one of the countries at the forefront of AI progress. They are going to offer ChatGPT Plus to every one of their citizens. They're going to be, this is such a huge unlock. Good going, UAE. Geopolitical context. The partnership is seen as a move to strengthen US influence in AI. Yes, because the US is getting a lot of AI infrastructure. And I know, okay, so this is another big piece. China is neck and neck, maybe even further ahead when it comes to the competition with US. If you've seen some of the things that their humanoid robots can do, if you've seen, well, you've already seen what DeepSeek and the other comparable open source models can do, you'll know that China is very knee deep in this game. They are in it to win it. And winning when it comes to an infinite game like this is not just about having the best tech. You need to have the best adoption for said tech. Let's not forget that Google developed the GPT technology, the transformer-based prediction, sequence prediction technology, way before OpenAI was even a thing. But OpenAI is now the dominant name in AI because they have the best adoption. Cool. All right, so here's the thing that I think is going to be a job minter, right? So check this out. The project is designed to serve a 2,000-mile radius. That is tremendous. That is going to span oceans, right? This means that this data center, this 10 square mile data center in the middle of the desert in Abu Dhabi is going to offer AI capabilities and data storage and compute solutions to a 2,000-mile radius. It's going to span all the way to Europe. It's going to span across the Atlantic to maybe even the US, some parts of the US. This is extremely, extremely valuable. It's going to create so many jobs in cloud infrastructure, in cloud engineering, in software engineering, in machine learning, in, yeah, mostly cloud engineering, I think is going to come out on top. Networking specific jobs, yeah, it's going to be a huge win for that field. Economic and social goals. Okay, Stargate UAE campus, empower UAE citizens. We've already seen how they're going to do that. ChatGPT plus subscriptions for everybody, and enhance the national economy. Hey, if you have a more educated citizen class, you get a better economy. Innovation galore every field. The collaboration is expected to inject tens of billions of dollars into both UAE and the US. This, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, this is like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. The US is investing tons and tons of money in the UAE and setting this up, and the UAE is going to repay that favor. Partners potentially investing up to 20 billion in the initial phase. Remember, and over the 4 years of the Trump administration, we're expecting to invest about, the US is expecting to invest about $600 billion into this project. Cool. So this is all of the summary. Thank you, Perplexity, for doing that for me. Now let's talk about what you can do to take advantage of this wave, right? So data centers are not new. In fact, this is the highest ROI way to make use of any real estate right now, to build a data center into it. But there's a couple of challenges. You can't just build a data center whenever you have an empty lot. You need to have proper access to water because data centers need to run super cool. Those are very, very computationally intensive processes, whatever's going on at data centers, and you need water cooling available. You need a very strong network infrastructure around it. Whatever you're generating out of data centers is at the end of the day data, and that data needs to get to its users blazingly fast, right? So you can't just build a data center in the middle of nowhere if you don't have the networking infrastructure set up around it. Lots of jobs to come out of this, and I think the winners are going to be cloud engineers. Job growth and new roles. The AI-driven data center boom is creating a surge in demand for, there we go, cloud engineers, data center technicians. Well, if you want to be stationed at a data center and be a technician, that's a separate line of job growth, but I'm more interested in cloud engineering. AI engineers and specialists in machine learning, data science, AI ethics. Cool. Shift in responsibilities. So routine tasks such as infrastructure monitoring, resource optimization, and troubleshooting will increasingly be automated by AI. You also, like, if you're somebody who's entrepreneurial, you also need to pay attention to demands that are going to come out of these massive projects, right? Because there's going to be a lot of monitoring that's going to be needed as these data centers, as these massive data centers come into operation. Can you come up with a solution that is going to help you maybe track how much water is available at any given time? Like to a data center. Maybe you can track the network, and maybe you can build an app that tracks the network connectivity index, the lots, and justifies or gives it a score to determine how apt a piece of land or an empty lot is to, like setting up a data center. I don't know, but there's a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities here as well. Cloud engineers will shift toward higher level responsibilities. I feel like every engineer is shifting towards higher level responsibilities because of the prevalence of AI. Okay, integration with AI. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Don't want to click into another article. Cloud engineers will work closely with AI systems. Obviously, everyone's doing that. Predictive modeling for resource allocation, intelligent automation for operations. Now, none of this should be scary, right? I think the basics are still the basics. In order to become a cloud engineer, you have to get familiar with one of the three main cloud providers, see what services they offer. You need to you need to be familiar with a language that lets you write scripts, such as Python would be a good one. You need to be familiar with, basic networking concepts. You need to be familiar with some computer engineering to understand how CPU and memory is allocated. You need to understand continuous integration, continuous deployment, skills like that. And yeah, I think once you have the basics down, you have to get familiar with AI tools, which give you an edge over other cloud engineers. Speaking of edge computing, proliferation of AI in data centers will accelerate the adoption of edge computing, which, by the way, is, like making sure AI capabilities can be used in remote locations at the region where the inference is happening. Whenever you're using ChatGPT, it is not edge AI, it is not edge computing. You're sending your request to OpenAI's data center or maybe some AWS server remotely, does the inference, does the processing, and sends you back a response. Edge computing is when you have the entire processing happen on device at your local site. There's going to be a rise in demand for that as well. Essential skills for the future. Let's quickly run through these because I want to make sure you are ready for the future that's coming up in the next 5 years. Cloud platform expertise, right? So just pick any one of these three major cloud platforms. The way I'd recommend you pick one of these is just go to, just go to these platforms and see which of these platforms gives you the most in terms of AI credits to play around with. I know GCP is handing out like something like $300 worth of credits that you can play around with in the first 90 months of starting an account or something like that. Do not quote me on that, but you can also go through all of them, just, like round robin each of these platforms, use up all their credits for your own learning. Like I mentioned, programming and scripting is going to be very important as a cloud engineer. And Python is an incredible language for it. Python is also like a very portable language. You can use it for so many different applications. Dude, you can use Python to build web applications. Yeah, uh, the applications are endless. SQL is another one, right? If you want to sift through data, there is no better way than to use SQL. There's no better way to query data than to pick up SQL. So that's another skill you want to have under your belt. AI and machine learning foundations, right? Like these are entire fields unto themselves, but you could just get familiar with the foundations, right? Get familiar with what you can do with TensorFlow or PyTorch. I recommend starting with PyTorch. It's a little simpler. Understand how to deploy AI models. Like you can train very simple AI models. Don't, unless you're interested in machine learning, there's no need to take a super deep dive into it. Just build a very simple AI model, learn how to deploy it. As a cloud engineer, that's more going to be your bread and butter. And yeah, like how you can then expose that model via APIs or scale resources up and down as needed is going to be key. Containerization and orchestration. There we go. Experience with Docker. You take a piece of code, you take an application, containerize it so it can run in any environment, and then Kubernetes lets you create multiple copies of that application to scale that application based on demand. So Docker and Kubernetes are a solid combination that you need to be familiar with as a cloud engineer. Networking and security. Cloud networking, security best practices, and compliance requirements. Okay, networking and security is such a wide variety basket of different skills that you need to learn. But I think it's actually very, very, it's very worth your while to be investing a little bit of time in understanding at least some of the core concepts of networking and security. And again, like this is very interdisciplinary. Security on its own right can be handed off to cybersecurity analysts, right? But you need to be familiar with some of the basic security implications and some of the basic networking concepts if you want to be a cloud engineer. Data management skills, right? Okay, managing data pipelines, ensuring data quality, and integrating with AI algorithms. Setting up data pipelines, setting up extract, transform, and load data pipelines in itself is a whole job function. Data engineers spend multiple quarters worth of work setting up and maintaining data pipelines. But as a cloud engineer, you're going to have to sort of be familiar with that too. This is sort of another thing to keep in mind that as we're going into an AI first world, a lot of these different skills, which otherwise in the past people were spending so much time learning and using, can be done relatively easily now. So it's more expected for engineers of today to be familiar with a lot of these skills, even if it's at a superficial level, because on the job you can always learn using AI as your co-pilot, right? DevOps and automation, DevOps practices, continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines, because at the end of the day, software engineers are going to give you a piece of code and they're going to be like, hey, I don't know how this, I know how this works. This works on my local machine. Go figure it out. Make sure it's deployable on the cloud and everybody can reach it. And if there's high periods of demand, make sure you can service that too. So that's where you come in, right? AI-driven operations. Again, integrate AI, sprinkle AI into everything. Okay, so that's a very quick summary of everything that you need to learn to stay relevant in a world that is embracing AI-powered data centers, that is building more and more AI capabilities. Thank you for watching. If you tuned in, make sure to catch our next video. Please subscribe, like this if you found any value from this at all. I try to address most of my comments. Until then,